Harvey, I think, was the mover. Yes, Councillor Harvey, off you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's interesting. A group of politicians came together last weekend to condemn the bedroom tax, and they called on the government to reconsider their approach to the bedroom tax. One of them said, and I quote, "We haven't had a single member of Parliament come up to this podium to defend these proposals. Why is that the case? I wonder if it's because it is indefensible." I've lost count of the number of speeches this weekend that have chanted the mantra that we Liberal Democrats are all about building a free and fair society. This change is not fair. It must be stopped. I did not enter politics to make poor people more destitute. Well, we completely agree with your Scottish Liberal Democrat colleagues speaking at their spring conference. And the Tories? Well, the Tories' idea of opposing a mansion tax is because they say, well, it's wrong to tax somebody's wealth or their social circumstances, to quote ministers. But a bedroom tax is on some of our poorest in society. So that's all right then, isn't it? So our motion, Mr. Mayor, comes against this backdrop of confusion, U-turns from government on the policy, and the fact that our housing department, and this is the most important point, are not ready, and we do not know the full impact of the changes. But we are less than 2 weeks away from having people to find hundreds more in rent. One woman I know of, who is disabled and has an adapted property, was visited by a housing association and told she would need to find £25 a week more. She asked if there was a property that she could move to, and she was told that there was not a property available for her. For argument's sake, say there was a property that she could have moved to. Who will fund the adaptations that she needs in the new property? We're being told that a 3-bed, socially rented house is the same rent as a 1-bed, affordable rent flat, where she would have been moved to. That's the suggestion of the housing associations if it was available. So there's no saving to the housing benefit bill at all. But someone has to fund the new adaptations, and she likely won't have the adaptations ready, and she'll be left on a waiting list waiting for them to be done. Just imagine a man who lives in a 3-bed house. He looks after his children at weekends and holidays, but now his housing benefit will be cut. He has to move to a 1-bed house. Is that right that his children will wind up sleeping in the living room at weekends and holidays? If the courts were involved in making a decision, would he even get access to his children if he didn't have a proper place for them to sleep? Imagine a low-income family with 2 young children of opposite sex. They're currently housed in a 3-bedroom house. They face having to move to a 2-bed house until one of the children reaches the age of 10, when they would have to move to a 3-bed house. Is it available? Are all those units available? Will there be a place for them? How many families have we housed in 3-bed houses because there wasn't the 2-bed house available? Will they have to keep moving schools? Or will the family have to find additional money there to transport them across town to the school they originally were at? Social housing is not somewhere where you just sleep. It's where you live and become part of a community. A house is not just about the bricks and the mortar. Average earnings in Basingstoke for families and individuals on the housing register are £15,000, with some on as low as 11. The largest group of people on that list are those in work, on low wages, being topped up by benefits. These people are already facing extreme hardship. That's why they qualify for housing benefit in the first place. So if they're evicted, they would not have made themselves intentionally homeless. It's because of the circumstance imposed on them. So this borough will have a duty to house these people. And where are we going to house
Councillor
them?
Harvey.
We're going to put them in a bed and breakfast in Slough. How much is that going to cost the borough? And what impact will that be on their families and their children? It's appalling that at the moment there are no guidelines for discretionary housing payment, no priority. We're told by housing officers it will be on a first-come, first-served basis. That money supported other causes of homelessness, and it will be consumed by the tidal wave of bedroom tax issues as they come. We know that we don't have sufficient stock for people to move to. We know that people will face arrears. We know that the housing associations have said that they will evict. So when our housing department says that most people will find a way of paying, it is deeply worrying, because how? We will see, we are seeing already, that increasing financial pressure on people is forcing them into the loan sharks and the loan companies, and they are being preyed upon. The casework is there, And we're seeing spiralling cases of debt that people cannot get out of because they're winding up paying more to pay off the loan than they had in debt in the first place. Each bullet point, Mr. Mayor, of our motion is reasonable and reflects the key actions that Cllr, RSLs and other agencies would like this council to take. So to go back to the beginning, Mr. Mayor, as the Lib Dem councillor in Scotland said, bedroom tax is indefensible.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Wooldridge, I believe, Harvey, to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, in some ways, the debate's gone exactly the way I expected it to in this chamber from the individuals that have stood up and spoken. And I guess you're going to say, well, here we go again, and Councillor Harvey's going to say exactly the same, and you'll be expected to react. But I listen to the words unworthy and think, we're into that debate again, are we? Let's move a group of people out of one set of accommodation so we can move somebody else in. You divide and rule. You split people up. You stereotype them. You accuse them of being lesser people because they're occupying social housing as compared to private housing, compared to the private rented sector. We break society up in a way that shows people that we are not supporting them. And you see the real issues from Cllr, the real issues from our RSLs, the real issues that exist that are being raised time and again and around the country, and in this borough, in our wards, in your wards, I would imagine as well, as much as across the whole of Hampshire. And let me just say this in terms of some of the things that we're doing. This council is asking people to fill in their discretionary housing payment form. And where it says, and this is one of the questions that just typifies this, do you have any relatives or friends who could provide you with accommodation, if only temporarily? And could anyone else help you with your rent? So we've got people living in their home for over 25 years and we're asking them to effectively bunk up with the relatives or bunk up with a friend. It's absolutely appalling that we are asking these kinds of questions on a form that is supposed to tease out the real issues that residents are facing, that they need support for with DHP. There isn't enough in the first place to meet the ocean of issue that is coming at us. And some of the language, Mr. Mayor, pointless and futile. Tell that to the disabled, who are going to have to move because their home isn't going to be allowed to them anymore because of the spare bedroom, but the house you're moving them to isn't adapted to support them. Tell that to the foster carers that actually foster care for more than one child. Tell that to the parents who want to look after their children at weekends but can't because they're being moved into one-bed properties. There's a reality to this, and all the rubbish that's talked about in terms of benefits this and benefits that and the rest of it, it's the human issue. It's the people issue. And I'm sorry, but, put your politics to one side. I'm a human being first. And when you see a resident come and talk to you about the issues they're facing, I'm sorry, but as a councillor, that's my first duty, to represent that, to tell you those real issues, and try to make you understand the reality that they're going through. Now, that tells me this policy is wrong. And it also tells me what we do as a council is absolutely key. Can I just say that our local strategic partnership referred to this as the bedroom tax? We can play semantics till the cows come home, but that's what it is around the country. It's what the agencies are referring to it as. And Affinity Sutton have it all over their advice. In terms of our RSL, Sentinel and Sovereign realise what's coming down the line. Sentinel know they don't have the stock to move people into, but they're making the decision because the amount that it's going to hit them on their bottom line, they're saying, we will evict. So what are we going to do? Whether people present as homeless over there because Sentinel have evicted them because they're in arrears and they can't move because in arrears you can't move. You can't do managed moves when you're in arrears. What are we going to do? Are we going to put them in bed and breakfast in Slough and say that's our answer to this issue? I'm really passionate about this, as you can tell, because there are real issues. And I'm sorry, but the debate in this chamber hasn't done our residents justice. And to get into the worthy here and the worthy debate there, I prefer that to be about dignity. I think it's about dignity. And the one thing we're not showing any of the residents in an equal sense across this whole borough is dignity. It's about divide and rule. So, Mr. Mayor, I would urge members to support the motion. Because at the end of the day, you can take the council notes, you can take the council notes out.
Excuse me. Councillor James, would you refrain from shouting across at the member?
As much as you like, you can take the council notes out. There's a comments from other people, they're relevant, they're factual, they're the truth. The actual thing that matters is those particular resolves elements, those elements that we're going to vote on, that will make a difference to people out there, and that our RSLs, Cllr, and the other agencies in this borough are calling on this council to do.
Okay.